Hello, Africans. Hello, Global Africa. This is King H.O. I'm back again. This article, this time, I'm going to be concentrating more, especially on France and Macron. Macron says colonialism was a grave mistake. I'm laughing at this statement made by this guy because he thinks that we Africans are really monkeys. We are fools. We don't really understand the system of the Western world, especially the system of France. We know France. We understand France. We know who they're about. And the best thing for Africa is to make sure that France is completely uprooted from the continent of Africa. But Macron says colonialism was a grave mistake. And he goes further by saying this in Abuja, Ivory Coast, where he visited, and this happened on a Saturday. So this was just a recent article. I saw it on Saturday. I saw this article on a Saturday, but I didn't have the chance to actually make a video about it. So I decided to do it today since I'm a little bit. I have time on my side, so I wanted to do this discussion about this particular article about Macron, and from now on I'm going to be concentrating on that guy. And if I see anything very interesting in Britain or United Kingdom that has to do with Africa, I'll also be discussing that. But the fact is that colonialism was a grave mistake and called for a turning page on the past during a visit to Ivory Coast, a former French colony in West Africa. Well, let me say this to all Ivory Coast citizens. The president you have right now in Ivory Coast, it's time for you guys to start mobilizing to kick that guy out. That president in Ivory Coast, the black president who is actually the Ivory Coast president, who is actually married to a white lady, has his head under the ass of Macron, so far into his ass that he don't even know his left from his right. Simple as that. A president that doesn't have the pride, a black pride, an African pride, to stand up and speak boldly for his people, it's not somebody you guys want as a president. This guy is an ass kisser. That is, as a matter of fact, Macron could tell you guys to lick the ground that he walks on, and he will do it. The man has no dignity. So Ivory Coast, all Ivory Coast citizens, you must kick this guy out. That's not a leader for Ivory Coast. That's not. Now we know 8 countries in West Africa have left the France CFA system, but I still don't trust that shit. I still believe that France may still have connection with ECOWAS, so we gotta be careful. If France is not completely out of Africa, we want all the embassies. There is no turning page. We know the tricks of France, and all the leaders from the past of France know what they have done to Africa and the people of Africa. They know it. Their citizens in France are aware of it, but they don't give a shit, because that's where they eat. That's where they get the wealth. That's where they get the money. So they will say whatever they want to say or whatever they have to say to Africans or French Africans. If I don't really like calling French Africans, but French Africans, since they like to be seen as French Africans instead of Africans, you know, since French Africans do not have the pride to be called Africans, but the pride to be called French Africans. That gotta go. That gotta go. That thing about French Africa gotta go. Because it just says that that section of Africa that speaks French is still owned by Africa. It's still owned by France. Which is why, when these 8 countries that have left the CFA are now part of the eco currency, you have the Ivory Coast president literally begging. He's like, he's just showing all the weaknesses that he has in him as a black man. He's just showing that, Africa cannot survive without France. Just some the pictures you see him holding the president of France. It's ridiculous. It's really sickening. When are we gonna be able to let go of this mental slavery and understand that the whites or Europeans or the Westerners are not superior to Africans? They are not superior. As a matter of fact, I'm that kind of person that believes in black superiority. That black power must rise. That black power that Marcus Garvey did must rise again to the point where the world will recognize that we are a people that demands respect. We cannot continue with this neo-colonization. You have this ridiculous French president coming to say, "Oh, we're gonna turn a new page. It was a grave mistakes." All the other leaders, all the other French leaders have said that shit in the past after they left presidency, but they didn't say it while they were there. And now Macron is in a very deep situation. He knows that Africa is rising to kick France out, and now he has to turn a different leaf so that they could still find a way to exploit the citizens of Africa and to exploit Africa as a whole. So Ivory Coast, it's time to wake up. Time to wake up and kick that president there of Guatemala, whatever his name is. You guys have to kick him out of that presidency, because he's not a president for Ivory Coast. He's an African gong dog for France. That's what he is. He's a lapdog. Macron controls your president. Macron controls the president of Ivory Coast. We must, as African, rise and see ourselves as equal, if not even superior, to any other race, if we really want to survive in this world. We must think and act on our thoughts to promote Pan-Africanism and Pan-African unity. There's power in strength. And the reason why the Berlin Conference, or the reason why the reason why European countries divided Africa to what it is today in the 54 states. I'm actually calling 55 because where I'm from, Southern Cameroon, is actually gonna be the next country that must regain its independence in Africa and become the 55th state. But the fact is this: even after Southern Cameroon gains her independence as the 55th state of Africa, that 55th state called Ambazonia must be part of the United States of Africa, not just the African Union, because we gotta get rid of the African Union. The African Union is useless. It is useless. It doesn't work for the people of Africa. It works for the Western powers. It works for some of it works for the Arab nations, because they don't see themselves as African. They see themselves as Arabs. It works for everybody else except Africa, and which is what we must concentrate on. African unity must be nourished. African unity must be the future of the African people, not just on the continent, but on the continent and globally, because Africans are a global people. France is still finding a way to slither and control certain countries in Africa, because they see that they are losing grounds to those other countries. But they are still finding a way, which is why Macron is now trying. You remember, this guy called African women being the problem because they're having many children. He hasn't apologized for that statement that he made. Yet he finds a way to say, colonization was a grave mistake. Well, since you said colonization was a grave mistake, this is exactly what I'm going to add. To all French African nations. I don't like using the word French African nations, but that's what they're using. I'm going to use it. To all French African nations, if you want to really gain your independence, your sovereignty, one, you must come together. Two, since France has stated that colonialism was a great mistake, then they should pay for the mistake that they made through reparations. So all French African nations must demand reparations from France. This grave mistake that they made, and that they still find a way to exploit Africans. He will say this to sound sincere, to say this to woo you, so that you would forget about everything else, while he's thinking of ways to exploit Africans. This is how the Western world works. This is how France in particular works. They're snakes. I remember he demanded. I actually made a video about that. He what was the word? He demanded for 5 African leaders to report on December 16 to France. Oh wow! Now he's the one in Africa reporting to the Africans. Isn't that interesting? Let me tell you something, Africans. You have the power, but you are just being scared that the West will continue to suppress and control you. But so long as we speak as Africans with one voice, so long as we continue to speak as Africans with one voice and telling France to get the fuck out, that we're sick and tired of their tyranny, we're sick and tired of their terrorism, we're sick and tired of them killing our people year in, year out. This has been more than 500 years now since the first step on the shores of Africa. The people of Africa continue to suffer in the hands of the Western world. And you don't forget, you got China also exploiting Africa. I'm going to end this right here. This is King H. Until next time.